Happy Monday to you, Central Georgia. Thanks for tuning in for a look at your extended forecast. We've been talking about it over the course of this past weekend and as recently as this morning. There's not much change with your 7-day forecast. We're still going to continue to see these rain chances each and every day, but maybe a little bit of better news within all of that bad news of rain chances each and every day. But first things first, let's talk about some of our rainfall totals that we've seen just over the last 5 days, even have received some rain past this time frame, but this is as far as our graphics do go out. Most areas probably hovering somewhere around 2 to maybe 3 or 4 inches of rain, but we are seeing some localized areas that have gotten up to about 6 inches of rain. How about 8 inches of rain here in Twiggs County, and then a whopping 10.5 inches of rain in some isolated areas down in Wheeler County. This pink shaded area, even some spots of gray within that, that's definitely getting up to about the 10-inch mark. Does stretch into areas over into Telfair County, pretty close to McRae, and this heavy swath does continue across Montgomery County into Toombs County, just south of Vidalia as well. But some areas didn't see near that much rain, maybe about an inch of rain over in Taylor County, same thing down in Dooley and Crisp counties, 2 inches of rain over in Upson County, but about close to 5 inches in areas like Warner Robins. So those isolated areas where we're getting locally heavy rainfall from thunderstorms that just go over the same area and the same area, that has caused these totals to accumulate pretty drastically over the last 5 days. And Middle Georgia Regional Airport was in fact one area that did record some pretty substantial rainfall totals. We'll talk about how we compare to average here in just 1 second, but going ahead and popping it over to the aerial flood warnings. As of the last couple of days, we've had a river flood warning that's extended from Bibb down to Twiggs and Houston counties along the Ocmulgee River. That was allowed to expire this morning, so that leaves us without any aerial flood warnings. And that's just a fancy term, meaning that the river water levels are a little bit above average and getting kind of close to that flooding category. And typically we do see these warnings go downstream with the rivers, but not seeing anything indicating that we'll have any more of these pop up. Of course, we'll continue to keep you updated, especially those of you that do live near any of our 3 main rivers, the Flint, the Ocmulgee, the Oconee, and any of the surrounding tributaries. We do see some over to the east of us, however, just east of Central Georgia, clipping northern Emmanuel County, and then the Savannah River over there on the Georgia-South Carolina line. That's where some of the water levels are still hovering well above average and getting into that flood criteria. And we are going to be on the lookout over the next couple of days in terms of maybe some localized and isolated flash flooding, which has come to fruition in a couple of counties, specifically Toombs County, Telfair, Wheeler, Montgomery counties, our south and our southeastern counties. The ones who have recorded the heaviest rainfall totals have been put in a couple of those warnings. So obviously don't need anything more in the way of rain than what we've already received in those areas. So over the last 4 days, we've recorded rain at Middle Georgia Regional Airport each and every day. So you can see as we went throughout the first 10 to 11 days of the month of June, actually popped down to the dry category for 1 day, really. And then we popped up to the a bit wet, and then eventually the very wet category right here after 4 days of rainfall. Some days higher than others. We actually had 2 days that were recorded. That would be the 14th and the 12th that recorded over an inch of rain at Middle Georgia Regional Airport. But all of these numbers that we've received rainfall so far puts us nearly around 5 inches of rain so far in this month of June. That may not seem too substantial, but the average rainfall that we get in the month of June total all time since we started taking records back in the late 1800s is just shy of 4 inches. So we're already an inch above the average where we should be for the entirety of the month of June, and we're only halfway through the month so far. So the record back in 2013 is 12.25 inches of rain. We're still a far cry away from that. However, if we continue to have a wet pattern like we have the last 4 days, we might get really close to that number in fact, but I do believe that we're going to fall well short of that. It does look like the rain chances are going to be a lot more scattered as we go throughout the next couple of days. And it is worth noting that's just at Middle Georgia Regional Airport. Up here in Macon, that's not taking into account those localized areas maybe down in Wheeler County or Telfair County that have definitely probably gotten pretty close to that record of about 12.25 of an inch in just about 5 days. So now, how do we compare for the month of June at this point so far? So we're only about halfway through the month of June. Well, compared to where we should be in the year of 2025, we are almost 4 inches above average. Now, normally this number, we've been just slightly below it, maybe about a half inch above it. We've gotten a really good cushion over the last couple of days. And for the month of June so far, we're hovering nearly 3 inches above where we should be at this point in the month. Now, this is as of yesterday. There are going to be more rain chances in the forecast for your Monday. But like I said, looking to be a lot more scattered and maybe a little bit lighter in nature. So not too much change like I was referring to earlier. Afternoon showers and storms. What's in store if you don't catch anything in the way of rain? Well, big time heat. Those warm temperatures and the humidity making them feel even warmer are going to be here to stay, but we might have a little bit of saving grace towards the end of your 7-day forecast. As we go into the weekend, we're going to keep our fingers crossed and see what the long-range models do say about that. So let's take a look across all 4 of our sky cams, looking at partly cloudy skies across most, except for downtown Dublin, where it is a bit of a gloomier image. Downtown Dublin was an area that got a little bit of a late start to some of the foggy skies that we saw earlier this morning. It started out in areas like Macon, Perry, Warner Robins, along the I-75 corridor, and then the low-level cloud cover shifted a tad bit to the east, so downtown Dublin did get a little bit of some limited visibility after the sun did begin to finally rise. So we're still continuing to see a lot of that low-level cloud cover lift in areas like Lawrence County. But the good news is visibility is back up to about 10 miles far and wide across central Georgia. Some of the fog east of I-75 did hang around for a little bit of the later morning hours, but it looks like most of that is going to continue to clear out as we go throughout the next couple of hours. Let's take a look at your current temperatures. Creeping into the low 80s in many areas already. You'll see a 73 down in Eastman, which is definitely an outlier compared to all of the rest of the temperatures on this map. 76 in Sandersville, 75 in Wrightsville, but then mostly upper 70s and low 80s across the rest of central Georgia. And how do we compare to areas all around us? Well, 82 here in Macon, just 2 degrees shy of what they are in Panama City. A pair of 85s in Jacksonville and Orlando. Pretty similar to the temperatures in Charleston, also up in Charlotte and North Carolina. You'll see areas up to the north and the northeast, definitely a good bit cooler in the 70s and the 60s. That's due to some rain-cooled air that is going to be up farther to the northeast. But I think the warmest temperature that we see right now, 87 down in New Orleans. So they are cranking up the heat down in Cajun country in Louisiana currently. Dew point temperatures, this is going to influence what it does feel like later on as we go into the afternoon hours. Seeing a good patch of some dark green building in areas like Milledgeville, Gordon, up in our north and our northeasternmost counties. But mostly everyone does feel the humidity. It is noticeable if you are in the lower 70s, and we'll look at a lot of these areas of dark green to get even darker as we go into the afternoon hours, typically seeing some lower humidity and lower dew point temperatures during those morning hours. So our feels like numbers are already inflated in that positive direction. Looking at feels like numbers in the upper 80s, even 90 degrees already in Unadilla, but it is a little bit cooler down here to the south and the southeast. Probably won't be for long, but it's mainly because you do have the cloud cover that's sticking around and blocking a bit of that sunshine, so not getting as much surface heating as those areas with plenty of sunshine so far today. Winds and wind gusts, a little bit of blue color down here towards the south and the southeast, but overall mainly a steady breeze, 3 to 5, maybe 7 miles per hour in nature. Once again, it's going to be a story of if you do see something in the way of a shower or more intense weather per se, probably a thunderstorm, maybe even a strong thunderstorm, you'll have your isolated gusty winds, maybe about 15 miles per hour and even greater, of course, if you do pop up any of those special weather statements. That's where you start to get 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts within a strong or a severe thunderstorm. So here you go. There's where the cloud cover does currently stand, farther over to the east mainly. And a lot of the cloud cover is so small in nature, the satellite and radar isn't picking it up. A good cluster of some higher level cloud cover to the north of us, not really having any impacts besides areas like Jasper and Putnam counties. So it's a quiet satellite and radar picture for really the entire state of Georgia. It's once you go down to way down to the south and southwest here in the state, areas near Thomasville, Georgia, that's where you're starting to see some of those pop-up showers and a couple of thunderstorms. Those are some lightning strikes that are definitely clumping together and clustering together, so it could indicate some pretty heavy rainfall rates down in south and southwest Georgia. Hour by hour, our temperatures are forecasted to continue to climb into the mid and eventually the upper 80s. Now, this meteogram has been undershooting what our actual high temperature will be each and every day, has us topping out somewhere around 87 degrees. But I want to show you this because our heat index does go along with this. This could have the numbers feeling maybe near 10 degrees warmer during the heat of the day than what the actual temperatures are. Now, if these temperatures do get an extra boost, maybe crawl to 90, 91 degrees, we're probably going to feel really close to the triple digits. I actually do believe we'll see a couple 100s, maybe even 101s on the feels like temperatures later on when Ben's doing the forecast this evening. So let's talk about yesterday. We only got to 87 degrees because of some cloud cover and some rain up here in the Bibb County area. Our morning low was about 3 degrees above average. Average high is around 91 degrees this time of year. That number only continues to tick up as we go into the official start of summer, which is not too far away. You'll see it on your 7-day forecast. 104, the record back in 2022. Thankfully, we're nowhere near that territory. And 54, the record low back in 1995. Thankfully, not dealing with the chill in the air whatsoever. So we recorded a little more than a half inch of rain yesterday at Middle Georgia Regional Airport. So that puts us once again, that number I showed you a couple graphics ago, nearly 4 inches above average where we should be this time of year. Sunrise was at 6:26. Haven't seen much wavering in that sunrise time lately. Sunset has been getting a little bit later. The longest day of the year is approaching towards the end of this week. It will be on Friday or Saturday. I'm going to work and put some generating together to show you a graphic about what our hours of daylight are going to look like as we go into the next couple of months, all the way until we get to daylight saving time ending and then transition into that shortest day of the year, which will be the first day of winter a couple days before Christmas. So the summertime swing, it remains in full force. Afternoon showers, a couple of storms still going to be possible because we have warm temperatures, we have the humidity present. I do believe we'll actually crawl to a high temperature of 91, which is right on par for this time of year. But like I was just mentioning, with that humidity present, we are going to see those heat indices start to flirt with the triple digits. It's going to be a hot and a humid day for most, but if you do catch a shower, consider yourself a little bit lucky. That's been the only saving grace with any of the rain that we've had recently. They do cool the temperatures down, make it feel a little bit more pleasant outside until the sun pops back out, and then you start to really feel that heat and the humidity again. It's very humid typically after you do see a rain shower. So 3 p.m. later this afternoon, scattered activity continues to bubble up like popcorn on the future view graphic. Not seeing too good of a coverage of rain according to the last couple of model runs. According to the graph model, it does look like it maintains the consensus that as we go into the evening and nighttime hours, we'll see a little bit more activity, mainly for our north and our northwestern counties. A couple of thunderstorms can be embedded within this. And obviously, a severe thunderstorm cannot be thrown out of the cards completely during this time of year. But it does look like if you see anything today, it is really just going to be mainly of the generic run-of-the-mill summertime thunderstorm nature. And it does look like most actually go without seeing anything in the way of rain today. But we could see a little more of an active picture compared to what Future View said on our satellite and radar later this afternoon. But I want to turn your attention to Tuesday, where we do see a little bit of a better rain chance. At least the coverage here in central Georgia is a bit greater. Still fairly scattered in nature, so this doesn't mean that you're definitely going to see rain per se, but it looks like the coverage is a little bit greater. That means you have a slightly better chance of catching a shower or even a storm in nature going into this afternoon and evening time frame. But we could clear out for the early part of Tuesday night, really more so the evening hours right there around 6, 7 p.m. Some rain does still try to linger into the nighttime hours, and that will be the theme. Each and every night we'll try to hold on to a little bit of rain until we really get past that midnight hour, and then activity fizzles out and we're left with a predominantly dry morning, at least first half of each and every day. So now to Wednesday at 3 p.m., bit of a later start to seeing rain pop up here in central Georgia, but it eventually makes its presence known going into the evening hours, continuing into the nighttime hours, but fizzling out overnight when it really loses that surface heating. That's a key ingredient that we do need for this very sporadic and pop-up pattern in terms of showers and storms. Let's talk about those afternoon high temperatures. Going to hover around average today and tomorrow, but I do believe we see a slight uptick Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I know 93 and 91 are not a far cry from each other, but if we keep that humidity present, those feels like numbers are just going to continue to go up. Even if you get the slightest uptick in temperatures or you get the slightest uptick in humidity, but we're just really going to stick around with this warm and muggy air mass for the foreseeable future. There may be some relief at the end of the tunnel. I was referring to that at the beginning of this. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, virtually seeing these dew point temperatures hover somewhere around where they have been recently. We know this muggy meter does typically undershoot it because we have plenty of dew point temperatures that should be classified in the upper end of this box right here, maybe even getting above it, which would be dew point temperatures in the 80s, which we've seen in some isolated areas so far over recent weeks. But virtually, I do believe we're going to hover mainly in that very muggy category for the next 4 days at least. But then Thursday into Friday and Saturday, we do see a slight downtick. Now, the farther right that you go on this muggy meter, it is a little more uncertain, but it's trying to hint at maybe some slightly drier air pushing in from the north. And this would make sense once I show you what's going on in the long-range models. We're going to keep our fingers crossed because this is far from certain this far out as of right now. But if we could just get a little bit of relief in terms of the humidity, that's going to lower our rain chances, and it's going to make that heat feel a little bit more bearable outside, not inflate that feels like temperature as much. But dew point temperatures in the 60s can still make it feel a couple degrees warmer, but we're not talking in the neighborhood of maybe 10 or greater in terms of what the feels like number is compared to that actual temperature. So we'll show you what is in store later on this afternoon. Now, once again, this is going to go according to the graph model, according to what our meteogram has been saying. Feels like numbers in the mid-90s. That's already going to be swampy and warm enough for many of your likings. I do believe we overshoot this later on this afternoon. Let's take it into Tuesday. What's in store then? How about 97 and 98? Some flashes of pink over to the east of us, areas over to the west of us. We don't want any of that pink to pop up, and you're going to really want to root for the rain because these feels like numbers, I do believe today, tomorrow, and Wednesday are all going to pop up near the triple digits in some areas. But a couple degrees shy, still 97 and 98 is virtually going to feel the same. I know you see that 100 pop up on the temperature map. It does feel a little bit warmer just because it is of triple digit values, but hopefully we don't see too many of those. Just go ahead and prepare for the worst. Make sure that you're staying hydrated, make sure you're limiting your time outside, taking care of your body, and making sure that you're taking care of your furry friends when they're spending some time outside, making sure they're staying cool. If you're going out to water your plants, which they probably don't need much water, but if you are going out to do anything in that way of outdoor activities, maybe just crank up the hose for a little bit, give your dog a little bit of a bath, let him play in the water for a little bit. I know that's what I'll be doing with Aspen later on this afternoon. Now going into Wednesday, virtually the same, maybe slightly lower, mid-90s as opposed to upper 90s. It's all going to depend on how much moisture that we still have present and what time that rain is going to arrive. If we don't see much in the way of rain coverage, then these numbers are definitely going to continue to climb. But if we do see something in the way of rain, like areas to the north of us, all these yellow and green shades, a couple of patchy areas down to the south and the southeast of us, that's going to contribute to a little bit of rain-cooled air. So it's going to make it feel a little bit more bearable outside. But it may just be a short-lived shower. So it's going to cool those temperatures for a little bit. It's going to block that sunlight. It's going to be very humid after that rain shower, and then once the sun comes back out, you're still going to warm up very quickly after. And then going into each and every night, obviously we see these numbers go back down into the 70s, pretty accurate of what the actual temperatures are in the overnight hours. So let's take it to long range. Number one, I want you to look at this organization to the north and the northwest of us. It does look like a frontal boundary is trying to organize, and it definitely does have its severe weather implications in areas north and northwest of us over the coming days. But as this makes its push into central Georgia, this is 2 p.m. on Thursday, still a good ways to the north of us. I'll put a pause point a little bit farther in the future. If we go the European route, that front does try to push some rain chances into central Georgia for Thursday afternoon into the evening hours, and that would obviously be pretty close to that period where we do see the warmest temperatures. Our humidity is definitely running rampant. So I do believe if we go according to the European model, we'd see our fair share of fairly organized rain chances. This does look fairly broken right now, so maybe more so some scattered rain chances, very widely scattered, so still having widespread impacts. It does look like we would see our fair share of showers, our fair share of thunderstorms. That's typically what happens when a frontal boundary does move through during the summertime months. But we do root for them nonetheless, even though they are a good organizer of potential widespread rain, potential widespread severe weather. The good news is it could usher in some slightly drier air behind it. So let's take it to Friday at 7 p.m. right now. It does look like it pushes down into the state of Georgia, but it may not necessarily go all the way through the state. That's what you typically need. You need that front to really move all the way down to the south and the southeast of us So we can continue to get that slightly cooler, not necessarily cooler this time of year. We might see a little bit of a downtick in high temperatures occasionally, but it's more so that drier air behind it, because you can see states up to the north, Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, Illinois. All those areas are relatively dry for Friday because they have a little bit of drier air present. Still looks like we're hanging on to a little bit of humidity, enough to sprout a couple of scattered showers, maybe even a storm or two. But rain chances still aren't looking terribly impressive so far as it currently stands for your Friday evening. That pattern also continues into Saturday and into Sunday, where we do see a little bit of coverage according to one model or the other, but that's not set in stone, and obviously not seeing too much agreement, especially on the timing of this right now. That's why I'm saying it's still a little bit uncertain, but this does correlate with what I showed you on that muggy meter, where we do see a slight downtick in those dew point temperatures. Any relief we can get in the form of slightly less moisture in the air will go a long way for inhibiting our rain chances. And this goes all the way to Monday at 4 p.m. We're definitely going to keep our fingers crossed that this is the scenario that plays out, and hopefully we can finally get a good stretch of just seeing maybe a 10% chance of a sprinkle, maybe a 20% chance of a shower or a storm. That would be more reminiscent of our summertime forecasts. So let's pop it over to your 7-day forecast, and you will notice some different rain chances on each and every day. I do believe you have a greater chance of seeing some rain on other days as opposed to some. So this afternoon, 30%, that's obviously overshooting it from what FutureView said. If we go along with what FutureView said, it would probably be more of a 10% chance of just a shower. But it's this time of year, temperatures are warm, we have plenty of humidity, so I do believe the activity this afternoon going to be a little bit greater in coverage than what the models do say. But I put us up to a 40% chance on Tuesday, because I have a little more confidence that you'll catch a shower or a storm Tuesday afternoon as opposed to Monday, as opposed to Wednesday. And then we go into Thursday and Friday where we're still at 40%, but the downtick once again, Saturday and Sunday. Obviously, the best way to think about these rain chances is going to be confidence in the coverage of it. So if you have a 40%, that's looking to be a little bit more widely scattered than maybe just a couple of scattered sprinkles here and there, is what I have for the 30% right now. But it is still an uncertain time of year. It's very unpredictable. It's just going to deal with pop-up activity in the way of showers and storms. As long as we have the muggy air present, that's going to be a big driver of afternoon shower and especially storm chances. But also I do want to note the high temperatures. Doesn't seem like a far cry from the beginning of the week, 91 as opposed to 93 and 94 towards the weekend. But once again, it's all going to depend on that humidity, and we're still looking at feels like temperatures at least a little bit warmer than the actual temperatures, or even close to the triple digits. If we see that downtick in humidity, these temperatures will probably still feel pretty accurate of their actual values, somewhere in the mid 90s, maybe flirt with the upper 90s. So the heat and humidity are going to be here to stay. It's going to be a pretty good weekend as it's shaping up right now. It does look like the rain chances are a lot more scattered. And of course, the best piece of advice: when thunder roars, go indoors. We don't just say that because it rhymes. We do say it because that means lightning is fairly close by, and that's something you don't need to be outside for. And also, given the nature of these showers and storms, going to be fairly short-lived. So if you just head inside for about 10 to 15 minutes, wait for those rumbles of thunder to go away, you're looking good to go for the rest of your afternoon and evening plans. So if you're out by the pool, maybe taking a walk, going out to the lake, you see those dark clouds, you hear those rumbles of thunder, just make plans to get under some covering, get inside for about 10 to 15 minutes, wait for that shower or thunderstorm to pass by, and then the rest of the afternoon should look fairly clear. But you'll have to keep an eye out at all times throughout the afternoon and evening hours. It's a typical summertime forecast, and if you do want to have any plans, like I was telling you last week, you had plans to mow the lawn, you have a tea time later this weekend or sometime in the weekdays, the morning is going to be a better time to book those or schedule those or plan your schedule in order to get any of that done, because the first half of each day is predominantly going to be dry. First day of summer officially on Friday. The official summer solstice will be sometime around 10:30, 10:40 at night on Friday. And then I do believe Saturday is actually going to be our longest day in terms of daylight hours. So like I said, I'll be working on a graphic to put together, and obviously our weather team here will be producing some breakouts in terms of our rainfall, in terms of the summer solstice. There's a lot to cover as we go throughout this week in weather and tell you what's going on just past the 7-day forecast, past showing you these numbers with these icons. So we'll be working on putting those together over the course of the next couple of days. I believe Ansley's going to go more in depth about the rain that we've received, what that's doing in terms of the impacts that it does have for your backyard garden, your plants, and along with kind of why it does smell whenever you do see some rain off in the distance and such. It's quite a funny phenomenon, and obviously I know a lot of you were pretty accustomed to rain over the last couple of weeks, so you definitely probably noticed a little bit of that smell, so she'll go into a little more of the science of it. And once again, our live radar tool that I push every day at the end of this extended forecast, a great tool to utilize in order to pick out where a shower or where a thunderstorm may be that you do hear some rumbles of thunder off in the distance. You can be your own meteorologist with this 24/7 stream and take a look at this satellite and radar picture that we have in real time, and we continue to update and try to give you a better idea of your weather on your own time right there. You can go and look at our storm outlooks, our numbers, our temperatures, feels like temperatures, and that gives you a good idea about the potential we have each and every day for some rain chances. The higher those numbers climb, the closer we get to the triple digits. Still looking like a pretty good chance for rain each and every day when we do have those temperatures that are inflated for what they feel like with the humidity present. But also a great tool to utilize just to look at the radar on your own time. Would definitely recommend using that if you are trying to schedule any outdoor plans or figure out what time that the rain's coming or where the rain is currently located if you maybe just hear things getting a bit messy outside. So that will do it for Monday's edition for your extended forecast. Once again, we're back here at 10:30 each and every weekday, breaking down your forecast in a little bit more depth. Hopefully we'll continue to see a good trend towards the end of the week into your weekend where we can really knock those rain chances down to maybe about a 10 or a 20%, and you're looking good to go for any outdoor plans. But until then, you can always put in perspective. It's a humid week. But I did see this morning that they had a forecasted high of 110 in Las Vegas. So we'll be very thankful that we're not anywhere near those numbers here in Central Georgia. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back at 10:30 sharp tomorrow.